G'day everyone and welcome back to the Cyber Minutes podcast. My name is Max and as always I'm joined by Flynn. We've got some good topics to go through today. Firstly, Medibank. There's an update on what they're doing after their breach in 2022. If you're around for that, then just as a bit of a background, they had a huge data breach where they released, at the time it was one of the biggest in Australian history, if not the biggest data breach, linking heaps of PII of all of their customers. So they've given us an update, and there's also an update on, national data? Yeah,
National Public Data.
National Public Data, which is some organization publishing their passwords and their own front-facing website. So let's get right into it on the Medibank one. So Flynn, what do you know about this?
Yeah, so I think Medibank's probably the most spoke about company in the Cyber Minutes history.
Yeah,
I think we're probably given the most updates on the Medibank situation out of all of them. So yeah, basically just about largest, if not in terms of largest data amount lost in Australian history at the time, it definitely was in terms of scale, in terms of sensitivity. We're still feeling the effects of it today. I know multiple people that have been feeling the effects of the Medibank data breach, and they probably will for the next decades, I would say.
Yeah.
But anyway, Medibank stock after this incident plummeted, as it sort of should have. They have sort of come back to normal now, but there was a good 6 months where Medibank stock was completely down the drain. But they have just released that they are going to spend a total of 126 million AUD over the next 3 years, which I suppose is a good initiative. I actually don't know the entire Medibank turnover.
It's massive.
Yeah, so Medibank's a massive company, so that's like probably quite a small fraction of, their actual gross turnover. But, spending how much you spend isn't necessarily indicative of how seriously you're taking security, especially, in corporate politics. You never know where that money is actually going. But it's good to see that they are putting figures out there to the public on what they're doing. I suppose you could argue it's just a marketing stunt to say, we're taking your security seriously. I'm sure everybody's heard that a million different times from a million different companies.
Yep.
But yeah, I know a lot of students also listen to our episode, so Medibank might be a good place to look to go to graduate to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at least they're putting their numbers out there to say that they're actually trying to upgrade their systems. Yeah, that's basically all to say about it.
Yeah, no, it's a good initiative, and yeah, like you said, some people could argue it's just a stunt, or some of the money is not going to really do much. It might just be used to buy a couple of new tools and hire a couple of new people. But I hope that's not the case, and I hope that they're able to shake things up and fully rebrand themselves as a really quite robust company in terms of cybersecurity. And, I'm sure we'll hear about their new initiatives in their advertising moving forward. Like when Telstra pushed their big change in cybersecurity, we got heaps of ads about it. We still get ads about it now. And, even after Optus's data breach, the Telstra ad machine was pumping out all their cybersecurity ads too. So I am kind of cautious. I'm optimistically cautious about this, where I think it can be a good thing, but I would really appreciate it if maybe we can bring someone on from Medibank and actually get to hear a little bit about what's changed since before.
Yeah, I will say that this does sort of feel a little bit like a response to the Privacy Commissioner coming out, and the Privacy Commission was straight up suing Medibank. That was our last update, where they basically said they failed to take reasonable steps to protect personal information, given its size and nature of the data they were holding. Yeah. So this could be a sort of stunt to, not necessarily stunt because they are spending that money, but in response to that.
Yeah, or a way to, kind of circumvent getting sued. Maybe if they put this in, it could, lessen the punishment that they may face, or lessen the charges put against them.
Yeah. A little bit off topic, but I was having a discussion with someone the other day about the CrowdStrike response, which we were talking about, where they had the root cause analysis and whatnot. Medibank is the polar opposite of that, where I was saying that CrowdStrike's response was really, really good because they came out with a lot of in-depth what actually happened. Medibank is the usual of what you see. The privacy commissioner has come out and said they failed to take reasonable steps. We don't know what actually happened still. It was 2 years ago. It was 2022, probably the worst data breach in Australian history. We still don't know what's going on.
Yep.
Whereas what you would prefer to see with the CrowdStrike incident doesn't necessarily mean it excuses them for what happened. But, we actually know what happened, what went wrong, and what's been affected. So it'd be good to actually understand the situation more with Medibank, but we'll probably figure that out in like 5 years' time.
If we're lucky. Moving on, we've got a funny sort of... It's not funny. It's very serious. But it is the way in which this attack, happened is rather funny. So in April this year, a cyber criminal began selling data from NPD, which is just national public data. And I believe it's an American company that just has data, I suppose. After the data was, released to be being sold, that company acknowledged that it had an intrusion, and there was an analysis on what went on, and they found that someone published let me just read this. So there was an exposed archive, which was public facing. So there was just a file, specifically a zip file called members.zip that was available publicly from this site, and it had given all of the users and all of the users' passwords just to the internet. So it was a plain text file from what I'm being seen. It's not saying that it's encrypted anywhere, but it was a zip file which had the records and credentials from the company's website, meaning username and passwords for every single user.
It's pretty ironic that a company called the National Public Data, and by the way, it's basically a company that does background checks. That's what they primarily do.
Yeah.
But a company with data in its name, National Public Data, and with the data laws in America, which aren't the strictest in the world, they're pretty good. They're not quite like your GDPR level.
Yeah.
But they're pretty good, especially compared to Australia. The irony that this is how they were handling the data is shocking. I assume that there's going to be pretty massive consequences for that.
Yep.
101, not even 101, just don't have all of your information facing the internet, and also the matter it is. A lot of this information I think I saw was also from like deceased people, which can also be a nightmare for fraud because, with fraud, it's usually happening to someone, so someone can say, hey, no, that's not me. But the person's deceased. Sometimes, someone's not going to pick up on that necessarily, which can be pretty scary.
The company has come forward and they've said that the data was from an out-of-date old version of the website. But then they've also gone on and said, well, it's an active investigation, so we can't say too much. So obviously, it was an old version of the website, but, that doesn't mean that you can't just use old passwords from people that haven't changed their password in a long time. So their statement was basically redundant. Like, yeah, it's an old version, but, you've still given, username and passwords of users, which if you think about it for 2 seconds, you have someone's full name or their username, and you're able to search that username. You're able to find other versions of that person's account, maybe find their email address from something else. And from then, you can go and check all of their accounts of common websites, YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, all of these using the password that was given to you and the email that you found through basic OSINT that would take you about 2 seconds. So actually, initially when I read their response, was thinking, fair enough, but actually it's pissed me off now. They've actually said that, it's an old version, so it's not too bad. Well, piss off. That's a pretty lame excuse and, really doesn't contribute to them whatsoever.
Yeah. It also seems like they did leak social security numbers and stuff like that online as well. So if you got social security numbers, as you said, if you got social security numbers, names, addresses, emails, you have everything basically. And passwords or a background check thing. Who knows what else you could get in there if you just got into someone's new account.
Yeah.
You basically can do the highest level of identity fraud.
Yeah. And there's a good point made by Krebson Security, who's the site that's written this report, they said, the point is, if you're an American who hasn't frozen their credit files or you haven't yet experienced some form of new account fraud, the ID thieves probably just haven't gotten around to you yet. So watch out for that. Thanks for listening. Just a reminder that the Cyber Minutes podcast is for educational purposes only. The views expressed by hosts and guests are their own, not necessarily their employers. Advice discussed is general advice. We promote ethical discussions, not illegal activities. Have a cybersecurity question? Send an email to cyberminutespodcast@gmail.com, as we'd love to answer it. Stay cyber safe.